Hi, welcome to this screencast from Progress Software. Today we're going to be looking at how to create a custom date filter column in Kendo UI Grid using JavaScript. My name is Lohit. I work as a technical evangelist here in Progress. Here's a problem statement that we are trying to solve today. A customer of ours came up with a requirement wherein they have a Kendo UI grid with a date column being rendered. They wanted a filter on a particular date column, but the filter options they wanted was from date and to date. The from date is nothing but any date which is greater than or equal to, and then to date is nothing but any date which is less than or equal to. So they wanted just these options being there on the filter UI. So we're going to see how to solve this problem. So let's get started. In order to work with the Kendo UI grid, I'll be making use of sample services that are hosted on www.odata.org. Here, if you go under the developers, there are certain reference services available for us. So I'm going to be using Northwind OData v4, that's the version 4 of this service. Specifically in the Northwind service, I'm going to be looking at this particular endpoint, which is nothing but orders. So if I say orders, we will see that we're going to get quite a bunch of order details. As you can see, it has order ID, customer ID, order date, required date, ship date, the ship via, free at, ship name, ship address, ship city, all those things. But what I'll be doing is I'll be interested in putting a filter on this particular column which says order date. So to get started, what I'm going to do is use this service as my sample service today. What you're seeing here is on the left hand side I've set up a simple index.html in my application. On the right hand side we have the rendering of the same page coming up as a web application. So what I've done as of now is to include all the Kendo related style sheets and then all the Kendo related the scripts files. For example, the jQuery, the Kendo, everything has been put up, and then I just have a simple heading here which says Kendo UI Grid Custom Date Filtering Demo. Now to get started, first we're going to add the grid itself. So I'm going to say put a div with ID grid. Then I'm going to create a script section and then here convert this div with ID called grid into Kendo grid. Now as soon as this save, on the right hand side you will see an empty box coming up. As you can see here, this is the grid, this is the place, or this is the div which has been converted into a grid, but we still don't have anything. So the first and the foremost, I'm going to set up the data source for this particular grid here. So we're going to say, first of all, as I said, I will be using the OData service. So the type of that particular OData is OData v4. Then I need to set up the transport itself. So I'm going to say transport and then read, and I need the URL. So let me just quickly go to services.odata.org v4 northwind.svc and the order. So this is the, as you can see here, services.odata.org v4 northwind.svc is the order. So that's what I want. Plus what I'm going to set up is I'm going to say that I need a page size of most probably 10, and I want it to do the server paging, meaning I don't want Kendo to do all the paging on the client side. Instead it should delegate it to the server side. Also I will set up that server filtering is true. That means later when we do the filtering, I don't want it to do local, but it has to send it to the OData. Now another thing that I need to do is I will need to say pageable true. And having set all this stuff, now when I do a save, on the right hand side we should see that the grid should light up, and there we go, we're getting all the data that we need. But as you can see here, it's spitting out all the columns that's there in the data, whatever is coming back, but that's not what I want. So what I will do is I will say columns, and I want very specific columns here. So just give me a second. Okay, so we go here and then we'll say, like, field The field that we need is order ID, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to translate this into order. And not only that, I need customer ID so that I can see who was the customer. So I'm going to call this as customer. And we also have the ship name, meaning who was the shipper. So I'm going to say shipper, and we need to know the ship city. So I will say city, and then we need to see this ship country. So I'm going to say country here. Now we need to put the order date, and we're going to say ordered, and we have two more dates to manage, and that is required date. That is, the customer has said when do they require the shipment, and I will say ship date, and I will just call this as ship. So now when I click on save, on the right hand side you will see that the page gets refreshed, and then we are getting whatever we need. So we have a problem. So the problem is, I know it's a capital D here, so I'm going to say this. So now we should see the order and then the customer column coming up. As I said, we are getting the order and column in all the stuff. So we now have successfully got the paging working. As you can see here, when I do this, notice here that it's doing a spinning, or the loading icon is coming up. That's because it's doing the paging on the server side now, meaning it's sending everything to the OData service, and then OData service is doing all the paging and then getting me only 10 items of that particular page. Now the requirement is to make sure that we do a filter on the ordered column only. So for that, what we will need to do is we should enable filtering on the grid itself. So I should say filterable is equal to true, and let me see now. The moment I do that, every column in the grid is going to be made filterable. Well, that's not what I want. So for that, what we need to do is we need to turn off filtering on each column where we don't need the filter. So I don't need the filter in order, customer, shipper, city, country, and then I also don't need it in the required and shipped. So now when I refresh, we will see that except ordered column. Oh, sorry, I made a mistake. So this is filterable false, so I gotta turn everybody into false. So the moment I make this and save, we will see that except the ordered column, everybody else will have their filter turned off, as I said. Now if I click on the filter on the ordered, notice here that we are getting the filter, but let's take a look at the options that are available. There's a problem. So it says starts with, contains, does not contain, ends with. Well, this to me looks like it's treating this particular column as a string, because the starts with, the contains, does not contain, ends with, these are all the operations that you can do on a string column. But we know that this is a date time column. So what is happening? Well, in Kendo UI data source, we have this concept of schema. So when you set Kendo UI data source to read a data from a particular web service, the Kendo has no knowledge of the data shape that's coming back. All it knows is it's going to get a JSON, and then it does a best guess in identifying what might be the column, and then it treats that every column that's coming over, because it's JSON string, it treats the data type of each column as a string based. So that's why you see that the ordered column is coming up as a basically a string column, and then it's putting up the string filter options. So for this, what we can do is we can help Kendo UI data source by providing a schema property, and then we can say like a model property, and then we can say fields, and I can say that we have ordered date and its type is date time or date, right? So the moment I do this now and I save, so this was the field's order date, and then I do save now. And notice here that we see a difference. The required date is coming up as 1996-08, whereas this is coming as Thursday, July 4th. Well, that's because now it knows that the ordered column, or the order date column, is actually a date time. Now if I go and then take a look at the operations available, well, we see a change here. It says is equal to, is not equal to, is after, or equal to, is after, is before, or equal to, is before. So some of the operations that can be done on a order date. Well, let's go ahead and then say that the other two columns are also date based, so that we can format them. So I'm going to say this is required date, and then this is shipped date. What I'm going to do is I'm going to format this particular field, and that's going to be, the syntax is like this. You put a brace and then you say the first index, or the first placeholder, I want this to be mmddyyy. So let's put all this format on the other two columns also. Okay, so now what we'll see is, there we go. So we have now the date time neatly formatted. We see the month, the date, and then this one. So now we have the last thing to take care, and that is in the ordered operations, or the filter operation. I don't want to see all these things. So what I need to do is, in the filterable, when instead of saying just true, we have an option of actually specifying what are all the operators we should see. So we have operators, and then I know for sure that I'm working on a date data type. So here I can say that for the date data type, during filtering, just provide me greater than or equal to, that's the from date, and also provide me less than or equal to. I want only these two, right? So the moment I do this and then save, let's take a look at the filter options now, and there we go. So we have from date and to date, here also from date and to date. So now let me just do a full screen. Okay, so now let's see, I want to see all the orders which are placed in the month of July. Let's say 1/1 1990, sorry, this is not, so this is going to be 5/1/1996, and then let's say 5/30/1996, and then I'm going to do filter. Notice it's doing the filter on the server side. So okay, it's giving me everything. Let's take a look at what is happening. Oh yeah, I made a mistake here. So take a look at this. I said from date 5/1/1996 and from date 5, so it's doing that. So instead of that, I need to say to date, from 5/1/1996 to 5/30/1996. Give me everything. Well, there's nothing, it seems. So let's go. So I picked up May. There's nothing in May, so it's actually from the July, and I'm gonna say July 30th, and now we have 21 items coming back. And notice that this filtering is actually happening on the server side. I'm not doing anything on the client side. As you can see, you saw that it went to the server, it came back, it's doing all the filtering and the paging on the server side. Well, this was a quick demo on how to do a custom date filtering on any Kendo UI grid column, and then how to provide your own custom message for the filter options. I hope this is going to help you in your projects too. Hope you like this.